Hey guys, welcome to the broadcast. Will you do me a finger, please? Will you please reach onto your device? Take your finger, gently insert it down to that like, share, or follow, and give me a tickle. Share this program, folks. This is an AMA, an Ask Me Anything, right? And so of course, I have some things I can talk about, but this is just kind of opening it up to you, for me to hear from you about the things you want to talk about or questions you may have. Doesn't have to be politics, doesn't have to be culture, doesn't have to be race. Oops, I just spilled my coffee. It can be kind of whatever you want. And if I can actually answer it, I will answer it. That's an Ask Me Anything. Today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. It's very simple. I'm just asking you to go to jovanlovesgold.com. I do this with my fine partners at Goldco. Request your free gold and silver kit today. There's a lot you need to know about how and why to protect your money with gold and silver, especially when we know this digital dollar is coming, right? Also, it's the time if you want to talk about gardening plants or whatever. I got a question about rhubarb. And if any of you have grown rhubarb, let me know. But that's why I'm trying to set you free with the various books I put out about being independent again. I want to get you independent again. Just make sure whether it's this, Food Forest Bible, plant it once, and it self-sustains. Longest running one's 4,000 years. Just make sure that my name's on the book. I know that's really weird. When I did the Food Forest Bible, I only set out, and sorry, I was reaching around from my computer. I only set out to do something different. And I wanted to do a really nice hardbound book you can take outside, good enough to be a coffee table book. It's got a lot of high def photo in it, everything else. Here's how you do it. Here's what you do. I didn't even want you to have to search in the bibliography. That's too hard, even if you're working in the garden. And so if a plant works in 6 different chapters, then you're going to see that plant in 6 different chapters and talk about how it applies to that. But this is designed to be both a coffee table book, a bathroom book. You can do a chapter in a weight loss session, if you know what I mean. But you can take it outside. It's got a special paper and everything for it that helps that. But when I did the ebook, people cracked it. Rat bastards cracked the ebook, cloned it, made their own version because a book like this had never been done. Just make sure my name's on it. We taught you how to do it with fruit. We taught you how to do it with lazy gardening. Did you know right now, like if you're putting off a garden and you hate to dig and you hate to weed, and you hate all that stuff, but you need a garden, let me tell you the fastest way to do it. You ready? Go down to your farm store, your feed store, whatever the case may be. Depending upon how much space you want to plant it in, get you a straw bale. You know what a straw bale is, right? Just a bale of straw, not hay, straw, right? Take those straw bales, put them where you want them, turn them up on their edge, right? So you're kind of looking down the shafts, the holes of the straw. Don't lay them flat, turn them up on their edge. Buy you a bag of soil, gently spread the soil on top, kind of spreading it, right? And build the soil top on that edge and then plant. That's it. You got a garden that you will not have to weed. You'll just have to take care of the watering because, it's up and out of the ground and you're going to want to keep it wet and it will grow right there on the straw bale. And you got yourself a garden that will take care of itself, that will feed itself. You just make sure it stays wet and you've got a garden. Some of that stuff's this easy. Anyway, this is Ask Me Anything. Stick that mic, not that mic, stick that mic out there. Ask me. I will try to stay up with your questions, right? And we'll just have a session, you and I talking. Got it? Okay, we're going to get started. You got about 3 minutes to share this. And then let's connect.
Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County Full Forensic Audit Archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need...
Rennie Good was a gifted soul, a writer and a poet and a mother, wow. She tried to hit an agent with her car, oh no! Pop, motherfucker, now she's gone! Yeah, yeah, yeah! Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired unfuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease! You fuck around and find out it's what it is! Homo started talking shit to protect a chomo. He was getting nicked when he pulled a gun. Bam, motherfucker, now you're gone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired unfuckables with a septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease. Fuck around and find out what that is.
Warning, the following program has been rated Dilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you. Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians, the elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media, and the gender-confused, emotional socialist snowflake crowd? Cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, guys, what we're going to do this thing called an Ask Me Anything. You're going to put it in chat. You usually have to put it once. Sometimes I'll go back and forth. I'll make sure I get it. But we just kind of open it up to dialogue. I got a few little videos I think I should show you that I think you would be interested in, and we can talk about those. Give you an example. Have you ever been to a buffet? Put it in chat, yes or no. Ever been to a 12-hour buffet? No, it's not the name of the chain. A 12-hour buffet. I just learned about this phenomenon. It's where people go to the buffet place the moment it opens and eat till the moment it closes.
Don't even look at the clock. We've been here since 7 this morning.
And it's 7 at night now. 12 hours and counting, baby.
If you putting fresh bacon out, what you expect us to do?
That's a 12-hour buffet. She takes her kids to the buffet. They get there at 7 in the morning when it opens, and they continually eat for 12 hours. Do you think you could tell they're getting their Jimmy buffet on?
Don't even look at the clock. We've been here since 7 this morning.
And it's 7 at night now. 12 hours and counting, baby.
If you putting fresh bacon out, what you expect us to do?
You think that's child abuse? I think that's child abuse. Right? By the way, you know I kind of watch things in your food. It's a big deal of mine. By the way, on my book, No Dig Gardening. See it right here? This is a smaller version book. I can even teach you in cold areas, this book does, if you have cold areas, how to heat your garden from underneath the ground to extend your gardening season. Just before we started the program, I told you, the laziest, fastest, smartest, by the way, garden of all is a straw bale garden. You take the straw bale, turn them on their sides, spread the soil on top. There you go. Absolutely no weeding. No fertilizing. Not at all. You take the straw bale. It's got to be straw, not hay. That's key. Hay will mold. It's straw. You take the straw bale. You turn it up on its side. You spread the dirt on top. You put your seeds or your plant right there on the straw bale. Now you're going to do a little more watering because they're up and the air will dry them out. That is the epitome right there of no weed, no fertilizing garden right there. Did you know you could do that? Oh yeah, Mr. Hater, you can grow your weed in there. Don't have to dig. Hell, don't even have to bend to pick your buds. Right? Now, this particular person did put wood staves on the end. You don't have to. I tend to push them together in a row. But you don't have to hammer them and nail them down. That's entirely up to you. You can put them end on end or width on width, do whatever. It's automatic raised beds. Isn't that interesting? That is pretty darn interesting, right? It's just an easy way to do it. Now, I watch your food while you're getting ready for your questions. Let me show you this. I didn't believe it until I saw it. Let's see if you get what's going on. Kellogg cornflakes right out of the box. Open the box. Open the bag. By the way, pop quiz. Cornflakes were originally created to keep young people from doing what? Cornflakes were originally created and sold. This was one of their selling points, right? Okay, thank you for ordering. That's a no-dig book. It's just a simple book, dozens of ways to do it. It's an easy way, right? Deborah, it's interesting. I could show you my gardens. I've shown a few pictures, but you know what's really weird? I'm really kind of private about that. Only because it's just too close to the house or whatever. And after an assassination attempt, it just really bugged me. You'll find me every now and then when I'm 100% totally nondescript and the mountains blur everything or I'm down in the river, I'll show stuff. But being that close to the house kind of freaks me out. And so I'll think about it. Anyway, pop quiz. When Kellogg's were created, they had a particular pledge in mind, right? And that pledge was it would keep young people from what? Do you know? A little bit of just obscure trivia. It would keep young people from masturbating. And therefore, they wouldn't masturbate, wouldn't be interested in sex. True story. True story. Go get you some cornflakes. Anyway, check this right out of the box. Okay, so it's an open box. You're going to see this comes right out of the bag. And by the way, I have no idea how they figured out Kellogg's cornflakes did that. Maybe eat in place of sex. I don't know. So here's the Kellogg cornflakes. It's blue, so I'm thinking it's the frosted flakes. Not that I'm an expert. They're going to crush them up. So think of that as your teeth. So you're kind of, and I heard about this. I just didn't believe it until I saw somebody did it. Yeah, mental illness was supposed to be cured with cornflakes. Okay, so there you go. This is a magnet. So all they're doing is tapping the magnet, okay, on the cornflakes. Okay. Now, in that magnet now, they're basically going to untap what was magnetic. Now, if you were like me when I saw it, I can see these little black things going out, and I go, well, hell, they caught in that little groove, so that's a trick. Well, then they take the magnet, put it under the paper, and look. There you go. Yeah, I know you're thinking, what the fuck? Ferrous. Right? Iron. Literally, we're talking ground iron directly in it. You'd have never believed it unless you saw it. I kept on hearing it. I didn't do the experiment myself. I watched that one. I go, well, that's why they're crunching and they've got, that little rim around there could have been stuck in the rim, but they did it right. Brush it off and then go into the paper. And it is ferromagnetic. What the hell? What the hell? Your body doesn't process iron in your body even at that level. But yet it's in our food. What in the hell are they doing to us? Okay, one of the questions I got just a minute ago is how can a blue city, right? In these blue cities, how in the hell do they even get to do sanctuary cities? Give you a little history of my personal experience with this. I'm a Texan. I grew up in Texas. I wasn't born in Texas. I grew up in Texas. My father, when he left the military, we already had family in the hill country. My father then became, when he was out of one term, became LBJ's ranch foreman with the partners for Singing Hills Ranch and all the ranches there. So that's kind of where I started my life in Texas when we got to my father. Kind of funny. I can still remember being 2.5 years old, being shown my first goose egg. I thought it was the biggest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I can first remember my very first taste right there at the butter churn when he was done churning the milk in the wooden butter thing. It was the most magnificent thing I'd ever tasted in my life. And here I am, basically 60 years later, and I can still remember. Anyway, LBJ dies, the ranches move, Roy Akers passes away, my dad goes back in town, goes back into military service, then goes into civil service, etc., right? Anyway, so I'm a Texan, a lot of family in Texas. Over the time between the different places I lived, whether it's Manhattan or Los Angeles, I've always had a home in Texas. I moved to Austin, Texas, because I was doing several different healthcare companies. Austin became the Tex capital. Yes, Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ, the president. So I moved to Austin. Living in a neighborhood that's a very nice neighborhood. I liked it because it was not right down in Austin, but close enough. Still the hill country. I could literally walk down my street, right? Totally incognito. Nobody knew who I was or what I did or anything. I laid low. I'd walk to my Starbucks before daylight, get my coffee, sit outside with my wolf, Chief. I have a wolf. Sit there, whatever. Then walk across the parking lot to Trader Joe's. I like Trader Joe's stores. They're very good stores. Grab groceries, walk back to the house. Austin became a sanctuary city, and I never really thought about it. But when you're getting to the outskirts of town on the south side or the 360 to the middle of town, we would have miles of homeless people living in tents under the major expressways. Miles, not an exaggeration, just tent freaking city. And it's the hippie culture there, right? Right? And yes, Trader Joe's is the hippie store. And so the homeless, bringing in the homeless to Austin kept on getting worse, kept on getting worse, kept on getting worse. And this is leading up to 2000, by the way, the homeless people started coming down the streets, and we started seeing them close to the house. I mean, right there, which is really weird, but they were. So even the short overpasses. So you'd come off, like the 360 right there by the BMW Mercedes dealership, exit down. You're going to turn on your street right here. So you're going to go back under the highway, and it's, you have both sides of the highway you're going to go under. And right there on the highway became homeless camps. We're talking right in the middle of neighborhoods. Then the homeless people started coming down the streets. And they decided they could set up camp in your yard. And yeah, by the way, they just showed that Gavin Newsom may have spent $1 billion importing 400,000 illegals to California. Yeah, that's going to be a big story. Anyway, they started coming down the streets. And if you had a nice, cushy yard, they would camp in your yard. And the city passed an ordinance. You couldn't tell them to leave. So I'm getting close to my last freaking straw. Then, of course, I get into all this election stuff. Then they find out where we are. Then they start shooting us. Then the assassination attempt. And I know I got to leave. Well, just about that same time, as you're coming 360 from downtown, you're coming 360 and you come on the Mopac or whatever, and you exit to come into the neighborhood. I remember with the final breaking straw was looking at the overpass. You've seen cement overpass. The highway goes up over. It's got the cement overpass going down. And I remember this thought coming into my head. Why would, and I got to show you a picture so you'll get it. So hang on. Why would the state paint the overpass brindle? And I'm going, that's really weird. Now, Austin has done some pretty creative things. They got carved stone. They've got, all kinds of designs on the overpasses. It's pretty good that way. It's creative. But I remember looking up and I was thinking to myself, why is the city painting the overpass brindle? Now, just so you understand what brindle is, this is a brindle cow. They have brindle dogs. This is a brindle cow. So you see that dark brown, chocolate brown, yellow. You kind of see all the streaks in the color there. That's called brindle. In the animal world, it's camo. Well, it didn't take me long to figure out the reason the overpass was brindle. If you can imagine the top of the back, the people underneath, living underneath, and this isn't a rerun. This isn't a rerun. Hiking Call Lady rerun. No, this is not a rerun. You're dreaming that this is a rerun. This is a retelling. So imagine the back of that cow is the guardrail on the overpass. The illegals would walk up to the top of the overpass, sit on the guardrail, and proceed to shit down the side of the overpass. And that is what painted it brindle. I kid you not. It's bad enough finding needles. It's bad enough they set up bike fix-it shops. It's bad enough that the city brought in trash cans for them and porta parties. Give them all cell phones. It's fucking racket. So that was kind of the last straw. So you're asking, how does something like this happen? Somebody asked, how does something like this happen? And yes, I know what you're thinking. They needed a little more fiber in their diet. But I digress. Anyway, what happens in your city, and this is what you have to check in your city if they can do this. They really don't have to have a city vote. It's not something that really kind of goes through your city council. The city can actually issue a permit. They don't really sometimes let the citizens vote on it. You just have to check whether your city is under the initiative or the charter and has charter amendment powers, whether they can do an initiative or whether they can change ordinance on their own. Right? Some of them have to vote on it, are supposed to. Most cities don't even vote on it. It is not required for you as a citizen to vote on it. They can just do it if they have the ability in their charter. It's pretty sick, isn't it? Yes, double entendre there. Zoning bullshit in the zoning areas. You're right. And who said that? I am kingdom. I grew up in East Texas. I love East Texas. My firstborn was born in Longview, Texas. I love East Texas. Texas has become something I no longer recognize. And it scares the hell out of me because Texas is under attack. But that's how they're doing it. That's how they take over the country. They've got to go take a state, turn it purple first, then start turning it blue. And then they just start making everything around you blue. It's just kind of the way they do it. Speaking of something blue, we're going through this stuff with President Trump, the Strait of Hormuz, shutting it down, opening it up, getting it done, making these deals for the ceasefire. Iran has to charge, they can make money because they can charge fees for going through it. It's a deal that's kind of fair to everybody. However, certain countries have found ways around it. Listen to this crap.
In a controversial deal amid recent tensions over the Strait of Hormuz, France, Germany, and Britain reportedly shared intelligence on American military force movements with Iran. The exchange was said to secure the cancellation of Iranian-imposed transit fees on commercial shipping through the vital waterway, which carries about 1/5 of global oil and liquefied natural gas. The deal was reportedly proposed to Iran through diplomatic channels and was initiated by a coalition of 3 major NATO countries: Britain, France, and Germany. Sources within Qatari intelligence confirmed that the discussion took place in March 2026, and the deal was well received by the Iranian side. Iran officially proposed charging transit fees for passage through the Strait of Hormuz in late March 2026, as part of a broader 10-point proposal to end its ongoing war with the United States and Israel. Under the agreement between Iran and European countries, ships transporting energy resources from brands such as Total Energies, BP, Shell, Wintershall Dea, and Uniper will be exempt from the need to pay for passage through the Strait of Hormuz after the war ends. In exchange for this, 3 major NATO countries have proposed sharing intelligence with Iran on the movements of American forces in the region. It remains unclear which specific pieces of intelligence were involved and how it affected the conflict. However, this revelation raises serious concerns about the integrity and reliability of the NATO coalition.
NATO, who we protect, if France had an issue, it's our army that has to fight it, not theirs. Most people don't know that. They have now made deals to share their intelligence. They sit in on certain intelligence briefings to share American troop movements, weapons, intelligence, what's going where, when are they coming, what's going on with Iran, in exchange for Iran not charging them fees. That tells you, right? That tells you how serious this is. That tells you how much this racket is in infesting these countries to basically create this thing, one world, one new world order. Anyway, SG says, even if a city has a charter, and by the way, thank you for that tip, generous tip, thank you, follow Home Rule or Dillon Acts. They have to follow the state and federal constitutions. Our inalienable rights have come from God, not government. They cannot be abrogated. And here's the deal, folks. Pay attention. This is why I tell you, if you don't know how they do it to you, you don't know how to defend against it. So here it is. And thank you for posting this. Here is a way to deal with it. Did you know of the Home Rule, or did you know of the Dillon Acts? Look these things up. But if you don't get involved, and you don't know, they're just going to ramrod it through, and somebody always assumes it was approved and done. By the way, a bit of a sad announcement. Rochelle Richardson, which was the second half of Diamond and Silk, Lynette passed away a few years ago at 51. Well, Rochelle has now passed at 54. So now both Diamond and Silk have passed. Now, both of them admitted that they got multiple vaccine shots. Yes. It was a discussion after Lynette had died, but now, sadly, both of them have passed. But you know what? They left their mark on society and did wonders for mankind. God bless them. You want to see something beautiful? Check out this photo. Now, this is an apple orchard. Look at those bees. Isn't that amazing? Let me tell you what's even more amazing. You see that little barn back there? It plays a role. But look at those bees. Look at the apples blooming there. Every one of those little red things you see are ultimately going to become an apple. Evidently, this is an abandoned farm. And although there were apple orchards there, they never really bloomed. They never produced fruit because the farm was abandoned. No fruit for 11 years. Well, down the road, several miles away, 3 miles away, one guy's bees left. He thought they'd all died, about 60,000 bees. And what they had done is whatever reason it is, they moved. They left his farm 3 miles away. Okay. And they set up shop in that barn. And this apple orchard that had not produced apples for 11 years, yes, squatter bees. I don't think they're from Somalia, though. Those bees began pollinating the trees, and they cross-pollinated every surviving tree and brought them all back. Those fallow trees that had not produced apples for 11 years produced 22 tons of Cortland apples. Is that not amazing? And is that not beautiful? That's the way God made it. And I love that. I absolutely love that. Hey, by the way, maybe you can help me with this. You may have seen I've been, although I'm blocked, I've been inviting Dr. Frank on because he's still saying this thing that he peer reviewed our work and basically said, well, that can't work, that can't do it. Now, of course, you understand that Dr. Frank, what most people don't know, comes out of the military development agency way back when. But you kind of know him as a quiet teacher and Jesus, Jesus, praise Jesus, praise Jesus. Well, one of y'all saw him in a training session recently, asked the question again, and he said, Jovan works, it's fake, it's not this. Well, here's the flyer for the training session. And what I find really interesting is he talks about how he has trained 48 states, how he has met dozens of secretaries of states, attorney general, legislators, local election officials, which, by the way, I will remind you, way back when we're now going to start the full forensic audit, and we're starting, and we know we're going to do Maricopa, and we're processed. We were going to do Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Washington, etc., several states. It was him that was put on the road by Mike Lindell that went around to the states that basically told all of the states who were meeting with us that the audit, it's a grift, no, canvas first. This is the source of that. But I need some help, right? I need some help because it's really interesting that he's now promoting himself as the Nobel Prize nominee, world-renowned physicist. Talks about 60 peer-reviewed papers. That's fine. Mine are in the thousands, but it's okay. But here's an interesting thing. The reason this is interesting is because you know that the Nobel Prize does not publish a list of any nominees. The Nobel Prize Committee, the Nobel Committee, does not publish a list of nominees. They do not acknowledge the names. They do not tell anyone you've been nominated or whatever at all. It's kind of a no-go. It's just not done. And the reason they don't do it is because they don't want people going around saying you're a Nobel Prize nominee. It's kind of like this CIA thing. I was in the CIA, but you can't verify with the CIA because they don't do it. Well, I've invited Dr. Frank on and his nominator. The only way anybody could even know that they have been nominated is that the nominator has to make a public disclosure. Now, we can't find that public disclosure anywhere. Anywhere. We cannot find it. There is not a public source of any kind, academia or otherwise, saying that they have nominated Dr. Douglas Frank for the Nobel Peace Prize. Not at all. So it's interesting because I'd love to interview the nominee. I think this is great. Somebody's gone around to 48 states, met with all these lawyers, governors, and everything else, now doing another tour. This is the Oregon Blitz. I would really love to interview the nominating party who nominated, because they're the only one that can, and from their standpoint, it can be verified. They'll actually have a confirmation back. And I want to interview the person that nominated Dr. Frank for the Nobel Prize. And I want to understand, okay, what did you see? What it is? You can't nominate yourself. It's not how it goes. So somewhere there has to be a nominee, a nominator, and only the nominator can decide whether to talk about it or not. So I want to understand this, right? So maybe encourage Dr. Frank to join us. I would love to find out about that. I'd love to understand the nominator, which organization they're with to be able to do the nomination. I find that fascinating. And you know what? If somebody, just like Dr. Frank, he won't stand behind his formula, but everybody has to stand behind their work. But what I'm more interested in, right? And here's how I can relate it. Remember when President Trump was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize and the country who did it made an announcement? That's the only way it ever comes out. We can't find any of that. So I want to know where this comes from. Maybe y'all can encourage him, because I think that would be a fascinating discussion. And I think we could all learn, okay, let's go back. Tell me, from a Peace Prize standpoint, what do you believe makes this Nobel worthy? What did you see? What did you experience? And why were you willing to put your name on the line for that? So I would encourage people, because, by the way, it's not a public process. You can go look it up. Nobel does not talk about it. It's never a public process. It's never listed. That's it, right? And yes, the Nobel Peace Prize is kind of a joke anymore, but there is no list. And even if you're on that list, it's not released till 50 years later. If you look at my various ones, if you look at my laureate medal, you can actually go look it up. You see the name, you see when I was nominated, you see the company, you see what it was for. You've got a medal, for if you win, even if it's on the nomination side, like the National Institute of Technology, merit, our country's highest technology one. You can actually see it. You see the nominations. If you look in the book that was published about mine, is you go in the back and you see the very people that nominated it, whether it's this law firm or this influential person or whatever, it takes nominations. I'm really interested in that process. Very interested in the process. So encouraging. Anyway, so what this is, folks, is this is an Ask Me Anything. Right? And you get to ask your questions about what's going on. Right? Corey says, we've been trying to propagate my late grandmother's apple tree for 3 years now. We've tried both grafting and rooting powder. Nothing has taken so far. We're hoping to try this again, fingers crossed. Apples is one of the things, especially in family land, right? There are thousands of different kinds of apples. And a lot of these heirloom apples are disappearing. We're getting narrowed down to about 7 varieties, and that's it. And they're all owned by corporations. We need to bring back these apple trees. It is in Kazakhstan there's this supposed hidden valley of apples, and they've been untouched for thousands of years. I'd love to do an expedition there. But supposedly they have apples that taste like chocolate. There's no color in them, but they taste like chocolate because they've been sitting there for thousands of years and crossbreeding, and they've made incredibly fantastic flavors that have never been seen before. It's just like amazing. And so I think a lot of these should be, it is uniquely in pioneer times, wild apples. If you see them, you should be, again, we talk about this in our books, how to genetically hack them. I tell you how to hack the tree to propagate these things in this book. And so it kind of like, you can go to Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart and you can buy an apple tree that you're going to pay $90 for. And you're going to wait 4 years for it to produce any apples. Or you can go to an existing tree. You can do an air graft clone, right, on the tree as it's producing. And then when you cut that clone off, which has a root ball, and you plant that next season, that very next season, that tree will produce fruit. Now, why will it produce fruit? Is because it's not a graft to a root stock. It's a hack of the tree genetically and biology wise. And so that limb that you grafted already thinks it's mature. So it has already the coding that says produce apples. And so what you do is you hack that and then you produce that into a tree. Now, why is that interesting? If you're headed for retirement and retiring, you should be doing this. You take one full-grown tree. Most of them should be trimmed anyway. But before you trim them, you do the bio-air graft on it. It's so easy. It's easy. We detail it in the book. You let that scar you create in the tree create a root ball. You cut them off and you put them in a pot. Now you have genetically adult trees that cost you nothing. It costs you 25 cents to do this, that you can sell all day long, $80 a pop. All day long. What's my take on Dershowitz switching to the Republican Party? First off, I like Alan Dershowitz. I actually like him. And Dershowitz has always been conservative. The very first time I ever interfaced personally with Alan Dershowitz, it was at a mega wealthy billionaire family's dinner party. And I'm sitting there, and here's Alan Dershowitz when I met him. And it was just not too long after really the OJ trials. And of course, Dershowitz was on the OJ defense team. And he proceeded to tell a story that even as horrible as Nicole Simpson's Brown, right, and Ron Goldman's death was, that it was forever a positive impact. And I remember at that time, because I'm like everybody, I remember the OJ chase and the Bronco and stuff. And I remember, and he saw it in my face, like, what are you saying? And he said then that that one trial would forever change the history of forensics. And he explained then, of course, I'm a forensic weenie. He says, because the police screwed that investigation up and trampled all over the scene. At that time, they were trying to get police departments, all police departments, to adopt a standard in forensic investigations. And he said it was that trial that's going to do it. And sure enough, that trial changed the entire world of forensics. And now everybody upgraded because of that horrific act. So number one, I think he's an incredibly smart man. He has always kind of told the truth. I don't know if he's Epstein files or not. Doesn't matter. I discount a lot of that because Epstein surrounded himself with mega wealthy people. It was part of the racket. Doesn't mean they were kitty diddlers. But I can tell you from what I know of watching the man in person and understanding where he practiced and where he's from, in order to stay alive, in order to operate in these big blue cities, they will always claim they're a Democrat when they're truly Republican, and their saving grace is you never get to see how they vote. Their other saving grace is it is standard among high net worth individuals, corporations and otherwise, that when you make political contributions, you contribute the same amount to both parties. And so if you're working within the cap, say $2,500 or $2,000, you're literally making the contribution to the left, making the contribution to the right. So everybody understands it's just business, which it typically is. So I'm going to tell you, he's probably a lot like Clint Eastwood, who, by the way, is pushing 100. Clint Eastwood's the same way, has always been conservative. But when he finally got to the point in his career where he could say, screw you, Hollywood, he came out as a conservative. So there wasn't really anything to blackball. Mel Gibson did the same thing. right? There are tremendous Hollywood people that follow what's going on. But when we do like election security calls or whatever, they're there. Very, very, very famous names are there. But they can never kind of announce they're there because there's always lurkers on the call trying to set things up, and they have to hide it. And only at certain points in their career can they actually come out and say. So I'm going to say he was a Republican anyway. Now he can just claim it and own it because he has nothing to lose anymore. They can't kind of blackball him. That would be my take on it, right? That would be my take on it, right? Anyway, let me see what the other questions were. Somebody asked about people's grand juries. I think it was Mr. Hader in between tokes. And he says that sometime we need to talk about people's grand juries. Now, I want to dedicate a whole program to this. But in the United States, you can actually set up a people's grand jury. They're real, they're legally recognized, a grand jury made up of citizens under the state constitution, etc. That's a grand jury. It's a legally recognized by the state under the state constitution. There's kind of this other subset that if the state or city didn't do it, then they try to consider it an unofficial citizen panel. And they try hard to say it does not have no direct legal power to indict, to arrest, or whatever. And so there's one that's officially part of the American criminal justice system. And there's rules they operate under, and they can charge somebody with a crime, etc. The nuances here, and we'll do a whole show on it because people have done this, is can an independent citizen's investigation or a public tribunal do this? And to what extent can it issue, right? Can it issue a legal binding indictment? Some states have the ability to do this. And so they can actually true bill. True bill means they can return an indictment. It's called a true bill. So it's not really running a trial. Few states have the way you can do this. Few states have the way that a citizen's grand jury can compel the state's official grand jury, right? But it's not the same as a judge or court setting a grand jury. North Carolina would be an example. You can convene a citizen's grand jury. And what you have to do is you have to have a petition signed by 200 registered voters or better. Some counties require 2% of the voters. And you can compel a judge to do a grand jury. Now, in a citizen's grand jury, you're going to collect sworn statements, you're going to review documents, you're going to hold public hearings, you're going to publish the findings, etc. There are a lot of people doing this, and yes, we should all talk about it. I just haven't found a group of people that have officially done it, and I'm interested in people that have officially done it and succeeded at it, but I am more than happy to do an entire how-to program on it, so people can understand how it works, what they should do, etc. And I tell you why you should do this. You should do it because your counties, your lawmakers don't give a shit, and it's all theatrics. It's like when the county recorders or the city council convene and the citizens can come up to the mic and you got 2 minutes. They don't give a shit. They're like Instagramming. Here's an example.
Next is Richard Schwartz. Good afternoon.
Afternoon. Before you start the clock, could you stop it for a second? it's real discouraging to come up here and see all the heads down. It's like, you know.
Sir, you're on a 2-minute timer here, so let's go.
You can see they're doing other stuff. They're on their Instagram.
I'm not following you.
You're on a 2-minute timer.
Could you start it over, please?
No, we're not going to. Just go ahead.
So it was unreasonable for you to ask that people look up and give me their attention?
Sir, you have 2 minutes. We're all looking at you. You have 2 minutes. Now you have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Okay, well, I guess I won't be able to say it. Last week, you limited, this kind of goes to the heart of what I was going to talk about, which was the state of our democracy. Last week, you limited speakers because of the number of speakers to 1 minute each, but you allowed Pamela Jayapal to speak as long as she wanted to. It was 4 or 5 minutes. And it reminded me of George Orwell's famous saying from Animal Farm about how all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Mm-hmm. And that's how I feel like I'm being treated now, just because I was kind of asking for your attention. Like, I noticed you all were very attentive to Ms. Jayapal last week. And I just wanted to ask for your attention before I started. And I immediately got a hostile response back from you. I don't understand that. So you don't ever respond to citizens, or what's...
I do, sir, but you have 2 minutes for public comment to the agenda items.
Well, it's all on tape, and I think it's a pretty sad commentary that you think that asking for you guys to look up off of your computers and give attention during this short period of time was an unreasonable thing. I really feel bad about that.
Thank you.
They don't care. And that's all the public show. When they call it a public hearing, they're not deciding anything. The public shows up. All they know, their only duty is to let you speak. There's no requirement for them to do anything. There's no requirement for them to act on it. They got 2 minutes. Some of them are 1 minute. Right? They play favorites. It's a sham. But you think they go through the play acting of their being heard. They're not being heard. Right? And if I've missed your questions, put them back in chat across the platform, just so they cycle back up on my chat again, since it moves so fast as we do this. But that's kind of how it goes.
Next is Richard Schwartz.
Look at them. They're just Facebooking, liking, tweeting. Look at it.
Good afternoon.
All of them.
Afternoon.
Isn't that horrendous? Isn't that horrendous? They don't care. And you're right, Sarah. Maricopa Board of Supervisors is hostile than authoritative. That's what they do it. But there's a lot of cons out there, right? It's just procedural, right? It's just procedural, etc. Just procedural. Teresa asks, what are you planting in your garden? I've got 3 gardens going in at once. I've got 2 new ones that I'm doing for books. 3, actually. And so these are books that I'm working on. But the 3 new ones are basically, these are separate gardens, because when I talk about it, when I publish a book on it, it's actually something I do, right? And so one of them is I am doing a medicinal garden, which is basically just a pharmacy. So I can understand how they grow, what it takes, and everything else. And then we're doing 2 different versions of gardens that are all plant it once, never touch it again, and it will produce for 30 to 50 years. And we're testing all of them in the, vegetable range and in the fruit range. Right? Yes, we call it a pharmacy. And so all of these are being done and gathered and growing and ground. And I do that because I want you to understand that what I put out, I practice. And one of the things I want to help you with in the future with new books is I want you to be able to take a small spit of your backyard or side land or side yard or whatever, and I'm going to give you every plant, fruit, vegetable, or otherwise, that is one and done. Meaning if you'll take the time to plant it and then you plant these, they are forever returning, forever self-seeding, and you have a permanent garden, which is completely different than a vegetable garden or a flower garden or whatever. It's an interim gap between a food forest and your garden. A food forest is designed for everything growing together, and it forms its own microclimate. So even when you're, say, in heavy ice zones inside your food forest, there won't even be frost. That's a whole different concept. This one is just basically, it's a lot on indigenous peoples, etc. But it's where you set aside this and you plant it. And basically, you will always, no matter what, even when shit hits the fan, be able to feed yourself. Period. You will always be able to do it. Now, talking about some of the cons out there, we talked about those who have been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. Wow. Specifically why the Nobel Committee hides it is because they don't want people writing off of their name when they would have never been considered in the first place. That's actually the rules, right? Because let me tell you why. Crooks, criminals, dictators, and stuff would be going around and say, Nobel, nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, and they're fucking a child rapist. Sorry. That's completely against the rules, right? And that's kind of why I pointed this out, because I want to understand the nominator and, the Nobel Committee always protects itself against this. And I'll tell you where that comes from, because I'll ask it in chat, and I'm going to talk about some of the crap going on out there. This is expressively forbidden. And they do it because it becomes a crooked thing to do. And they don't want just people saying, I'm nominated for a Nobel Prize. This is forbidden. And that's why I want to interview the nominee. And it's because, all these dictators and crap in third world countries be doing this stuff. So it's an egregious violation of protocol. Of course, he's Oregon Blitz. I've now been in 48 states everywhere. Of course, I don't get paid. And I am a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, world-renowned physicist. Okay. Anyway, a lot of bullshittism is coming out. And by the way, I hope you all encourage Dr. Frank. I want to understand when he peer-reviewed our work, right? In his 60 papers, whatever. We finally collected it all. Every citation of my work. We can't print it in a book. Because if we printed it in the book would have to be about 4,000 pages. But anyway, I want to hear how I peer-reviewed my work. But more importantly, I want to know about this, because that razzmatazz is maybe an elected official or what. But does anybody check it? I just want to check it. I want to know. Right? Dr. Frank's not really my peer, but I do believe he shopped at a Pier 1 Imports while they were still open, and that might qualify. Anyway, I want to show you some of the bullshittism going on. And by the way, folks, what we're doing is we're just saying, hey, ask me anything, okay? Let me give you a little history. This fellow, early on, was inserted into me. I know that sounds really weird, doesn't it? But listen to me. Somebody said, you got to meet with this fellow. He's got to do this. He's got to do this, got to do this. So it was the Gateway Pundit that turned this fellow on to me. Frankenscam. I like that. Frankenscam. That's very funny. Frankenscam. Anyway, that's a good coin, Radio. Thank you. I hear you're getting out at 10. He's about to be released. He has been holed up in a brothel for weeks. He is now officially worn out and being released. So welcome, Radio, when he gets on the street here shortly. Anyway, the Gateway Pundit inserted this guy into a lot of different places. And he gets introduced as an ex-CIA analyst. Of course, I do my normal thing. I'm going to do digging or whatever, and I ran as far as I could away. He is one of the most published people on the Gateway Pundit, which I have a lot of questions. Now, he may know security or whatever, been around it. He served for a very short time as a CIA analyst, contract CIA analyst, and then has, done different things. I don't begrudge him that at all. But he recently put out a video, and all this attack with Candace and all this other stuff, it came out again. And you've seen Buzz Patterson on my program, the very person who carried the nuclear football on, Air Force One, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So dialogue with Buzz called him out. And then the same dialogue with David Limbaugh, Rush Limbaugh's brother, who David Limbaugh came out and said, look, this is just bullshit. But it's out there and it's being amplified. I want to show you this little bullshit con going around.
They recognize they've got some problems and got to try to deal with it. And then there was a report out that they had an emergency meeting Saturday night. And apparently, one report coming out of that meeting at the White House is that Trump wanted to use the nuclear codes. And General Dan Kane stood up and said, no. He invoked his privilege as the head of the military, so to speak. It was apparently quite a blow up. There are pictures of Kane coming out of that meeting with his head down to the ground. So, there's some very, very bizarre things going on in D.C.
Well, on Saturday night, excuse me, Larry, Trump.
Now, it's interesting. He was on Judge Napolitano. Total bullshit. Total lie. Even the wrong, correct description of the protocol and what would happen. But they tried to paint it to see how this story would go, that President Trump was about to nuke Iran. Total 100% bullshit. But this is what's going on right now against President Trump. And you see Tucker coming out, I'm so sorry I misled the American people. Trump needs to be taken from office, right? I'm telling you, folks. Trump's off his rocker. Total bullshit going on. And it's all over the place. But if you were to take, and I suggest you do it, you should go back and look at all these characters that are now claiming this stuff and tie them to who amplifies them, who appears on their program, who has them speak, and you get a very interesting chart, and you begin to see the connections of how all the dots connect. Right? You see every one of them, like, getting Tina Peters in prison. You begin to see how they connect. But that fellow, and you're right, this is coming out because we're winning. It's why they're trying to sell to America right now that MAGA's dead, everybody hates Trump. Here's what you're really watching them do.
Extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is 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 extremely dangerous to our democracy.
You are seeing nothing different than that stuff right there. Nothing different. But you think because it's coming out of patriots or people that have to tell you they're a patriot, that it's truth. All this is another battalion being activated. That's all it is, folks. France, Germany, all these guys that are pushing back on NATO, it's because they're puppets. What is President Trump going to do? Here's the effect. He's going to terminate NATO and he's going to terminate funding they're doing to those countries. But see, they're trying to bash Trump and get him out. They're taking a gamble that, well, he won't be in long. And they think they already have the system rigged. But what can President Trump do? He can immediately terminate NATO, which I hear is coming. And he can immediately cut off additional funding to those countries because we send billions to them. You know, we got 50 plus thousand American servicemen who died in war defending France, buried in France. Over 50,000. I think the number might be 57,000. Could be wrong. Did we take over France? Did we control their country? Hell no, we rebuilt it. But our military has to defend them. And look what we got. So President Trump does have recourse, but see, the system sees this coming. And that's why you see all these people coming up trying to convince you Trump's off his rocker. And that's why, and I want to give you an example. When the Bannon stuff came out, remember, none of these people covered the real stuff at the audit. They put up the pillow puppets. It's all a rig. Top to bottom, all a rig. The GOP buys advertising in some of these guys' radio show, but the GOP also publishes a list of you can't interview these people or we will not sponsor your program. Happens all the time. It's a real thing. But that's why they're trotting out whistleblowers and former CIA. No, nobody's former fucking CIA. And by the way, even Dr. Frank can say he's CIA and you could never verify it because that's just not how it works. Right? Period.
They recognize they've got some problems and got to try to deal with it. And then there was a report out that they had an emergency meeting Saturday night. And apparently, well, one report coming out of that meeting at the White House is that Trump wanted to use the nuclear codes. And General Dan Kane stood up and said, no. He invoked his privilege as the head of the military, so to speak. It was apparently quite a blow up. There are pictures of Kane coming out of that meeting with his head down to the ground. So, you know, there's some very, very bizarre things going on in D.C.
Well, on Saturday night, excuse me, Larry, Trump.
See, that's the difference between words. Words are never truth. Not when they're anything in politics. They're just not. And you have to understand some radio shows are political radio shows. They do the bidding for politics. There's a difference between people that talk about truth. And I'll give you an example. Somebody, I guess, it tagged me in Twitter, tagged John Fredericks and his program. Why don't you have Jovan on or whatever? And I replied, I know John. John knows me. John will never have me on. John's program is politics. John does bidding exactly how the GOP wants to play the game, and that's what keeps his program on the air. That's how he makes his money. I'm on the other side of the spectrum. I'm about provable facts. Here is the truth. Decide for yourself, and here is the solution. Provable facts. Here is the truth, right? And decide for yourself, and here's how you fix it. Does not complement politics. It's the antithesis of politics. Therefore, you have to understand John Fredericks is politics. I called him out with the bank your ballot bullshit. Get into early vote. But he gets paid to promote those things. Period. That's the way it works. That's what it is. Do not think because somebody either says they're a conservative or says they're a patriot that they are. News told you they were unbiased. You already know that's a lie. I'm surprised how, we'll just call it podcasting, is really the weekly world news. An alien bred with Bigfoot and Jimmy Hoffa, and we got Adam Schiff. It's all crap. I don't know of many people that actually just give you facts. Here it is, but go to the extent to show you proof. And in my book, you know how it is. Proof is truth, not words. Proof is truth. Here's the truth of Arizona. Everything they claimed in every category, early voting, mail-in voting, or election day, is absolutely a lie. I didn't have to guess. Nobody had to tell us why, because the paper told the truth. Machine folded papers of the right paper and the right color, even if we just use machine folded, period, is the only litmus test, was supposed to be, on average, 84.13% of what came in. Every single district failed grossly. Then you go to the other category. And this doesn't even take in consideration if it's counterfeit ballot or whatever. It's just a ballot, and it will have a hand fold in it. Why? Because you're handed it. You hand fold it early. You never fold those lines straight. You've tried to fold a letter straight, and you get the crease, and you go do it again. It's a second crease. You can't hide that. They were supposed to be no more than 7.5%, and all of them busted it, went over it. Right? And then the last part, absolute no fold, right? That's provisionals and election day. And they grossly busted over that. But if you add up the numbers, this is what makes their 100%. It's all a lie. Now, politics won't tell you that. And so I want you to understand the difference. I'm not political. And when I tell you I think President Trump is doing a great thing, I'm giving you my opinion. That's it. I can only give you facts as I have experienced them. I'm not a news regurgitator. That is not what I do. But like this thing with John Fredericks, there's a con out there. There is politics, and you've got to understand who is a political personality. A good example was you thought Tucker was news. No, Tucker is political. Period. Period. That's it. Interesting thing, Shepard says, Jovan, I asked earlier, but it really worries me. We have Arab-looking young men driving in personal cars with no insignia anywhere, dropping off packages for Amazon, and they take a lot of pics too. Okay, let me explain this so you're understanding what you're looking at. I'm going to give you some facts. I'm not going to tell you it is or it isn't nefarious. But here's how it works. Amazon has contract drivers that sign up to deliver packages. Okay? Think Uber, think the food delivery one, Eats, or whatever it's called. Doesn't matter, right? Lowe's uses them. Tractor Supply uses them. And by the way, you can do this too, especially if you're rural. If you are rural, you can go to your Tractor Supply or any of them and say, I'll run deliveries for you. And they have a contract price. They'll pay you. They'll send you notices every day. You use your own car, your own gas. You have Grubhub. Thank you for that, right? And they'll say, do you want this? And you'll say, I'll take it. It's just like getting an Uber driver. They will drive to your place to deliver it. And when they get there, they are required to take pictures to prove they did it and delivered it. And so they'll take a couple of pictures, the package at your doorstep and maybe the house or whatever. That's their proof. So they get paid. You probably also saw that technique in dropping off ballots at drop boxes, and a ton of them. Why'd they take pictures? Because that's the only way they get paid. Because you don't trust criminals. Do you understand when it comes to dropping ballots? They're criminals. You know they're criminals. And so you got to have photographic proof they did the deed. And that's why they'll do this. And so they're all over. And if you got a card, you can get a job, and there are no requirements. There are no requirements. Now, I met one of these at one of our family places, right? And I forget what they were delivering for Tractor Supply, but it was off in the mountains, right? And they made the delivery. And it was a black woman who had been an American citizen for 40 years, but she's from the islands, right? And her son, I'm going to say he might have been in his 20s, good looking, tall kid, you know, his hair braid and everything else. And they dropped it off. I just happened to be there. And I thanked them. And the mom said, "You got a great place here." I said, "Well, it's really a family place, but thank you very much." And we started chit-chatting. Well, this mom, who's a legal citizen, came here legally, is as red, white, and blue as you can get. She lives on a mountain, does her own homesteading. This is part of the way she supplements her income. And they just plan it with their trips. I got to go to the feed store or whatever, and they'll pick up packages where they know they're going to go in the general vicinity. And their home was 60 miles from where the family farm was. They just do it on their trip to get things. And they make money. They're going by there anyway. Here you go. I bet we chatted for an hour. Her son was really big into coding and design, wanted to get into gaming or whatever. I talked a long time with him, good kid. I said, "Hey, here's where you can pick up some gigs, and here's what you can do, and here's whatever." And we had a great conversation, right? So I want you to understand, at its simplest core, you are seeing, right? You are seeing how the contract system works. Now, do I think there's probably some in there doing nefarious things? Yeah, we found mail-in ballots for an election in Amazon shipping boxes, right? It happens. It's there. So I think there's good and bad everywhere. But I can tell you my one experience when I happened to be at a family ranch, it was awesome. And then there's other experience at the family ranch where FedEx, which is supposed to come to the doorstep, won't do the last 2 miles because it's the driveway. And so it can be even food or whatever for the family, and they'll just leave it out there and then take a picture and say they delivered it. That's when you rip FedEx and them an ass. It's a door delivery, not a fucking drop delivery down the road. But somebody's too lazy to come down the driveway because it's 2 miles long. Right? I mean, come on. There's good and bad everywhere. And there's good, bad in this flight, right? But they are subcontractors, right? Some subcontractors, and that's how it works. And it applies in a lot of different fields. If you hire a subcontractor to come in and plant your field, you better be taking photos the entire time they are planting your field. If you are subcontracting for something, you better be taking photographs from beginning to end. Period. Frankly, I like when drivers go to the doorstep and you're there, because I'll tell you what, if I arrive at any of the family places or my home and there's a package on the doorstep, I don't pick it up. I'm like a fucking weird ostrich. I'm craning around and making sure don't disturb anything. Can I see the label? How is it labeled? Can I verify it's really from Amazon before I ever touch the fucking thing? Same with a box, right? There you go. It's FedEx rules. That's the way it is, right? That's the contracting business. But for me personally, if I didn't see that son of a bitch delivered, I ain't picking up that box or taking it out of like a rural mailbox or even taking it out of a mail center. I will force them to move it out. I won't touch it. Right? There you go. I'm not gonna have them take me out that way. Isn't that sad we have to think about that stuff? But it's the truth. Anyway, is there anybody that you had a critical question that you think somehow I can contribute, right? If you don't get your Amazon package, Amazon says make sure it's not at your neighbor's, my neighbor's 2 miles away. Yep, you do that too. Anybody had a question that they really want to ask that I didn't get? I don't know anything about football and the Browns. I don't follow sports. Supply seeds, bankruptcy coming. Yes, you're going to see the meat packing fight come up because they've started consolidating meat packing. And so they take the factory farms first and put out the rural families. Right? I don't trust DoorDash because I've seen too many videos of people, especially if you have a American flag in your yard or a Trump sign, they'll spit in your food before they bring it in. So I don't trust that anymore. What's the idea with Idaho limiting water and killing farmers? We have as much water as we've ever had. It's a racket. It's a lie. We have as much water as we ever had. The only thing that has happened is we now shuttle more of it to the ocean than ever before. Why? We paved our streets, and the water that hits that used to soak into the land runs right down the streets, right to the drainage system, right to the gullies, right to the rivers, right to the ocean. And it can 100% completely be fixed, but the system does not want to fix it. I'm just trying to see if I missed any critical questions. That's how I think. I think with my tongue sometimes. If you ever seen me really think, I don't know why I do it, but I think with my tongue. I also talk to myself, right? I walk myself through it. And I talk myself through the instructions. I don't know why I do. I'm just fucking real. Okay, last question. Here you go. If you could watch from one spot from the beginning of the Earth's existence, time unfold, where would you pick to watch? I would be sitting right at the lowest degree of the Arctic Circle. Now, why would I be sitting at the lowest degree at the Arctic Circle? And yes, we got freeze dryers coming back up where you save $1,000. That's coming up very soon. I'll be getting that back out. We're hustling on the cookbooks. We're hustling. Anyway, let's go back. Where's that question? Hang on. Okay. So you said from the beginning of time, if I could just sit and look. So my choice, not the Arctic cap, and I would do either Arctic or Antarctic, doesn't matter. Come to the lowest degree of officially being the Arctic and park myself right there. If I could hover and watch time evolve. What people don't know is our Earth's polar axis have shifted many times, which basically means we in the United States of America were under ice and Arctic or Antarctica was not under ice. I personally believe there is more civilization underwater and under our polar ice caps than we actually have existing on the planet today. It's just, 800 feet under ice. And when you understand the earth and what it does and its wobble, and you understand our poles change, if I really wanted to understand what was going on, and I went to the beginning of the time, that would be my choice on the planet, because I'm not interested in this. I'm interested in this, the polar wobble and axis. And only in the polar wobble and axis could you really see historically what was there. And I'll give you a prime example. Maybe it's Ugurk, or whatever the case may be. If you look at, let's say you're an Ancient Aliens fan, and from sites all around, right, you can see Pumapunku and all this other stuff. But have you ever seen the big rocks, and they have perfectly carved channels, and then it'll have a circle with a divot in it, and then it'll make a right hook, and you see all these channels carved in rock, but they're perfect carvings, and you kind of don't know what they were? Here's what I believe, and here's what I know to be statistically true. When man made metal, right, we didn't have an extruding process or anything like that, and a lot of it wasn't necessarily hand hammered only. We would make molds. Now, some people think it's water flow. It is not water flow, and it is not for the flowing of water. You would, and you can still do this to this day. You can take a rock and you can carve out a permanent mold. Draw your sprocket. Now, today we have machine, we can do it because we can do it with 3D printing. But without that, you would basically make your part in a rock mold. You would use particular type of dense of rock that will take the heat, but you'll carve it in the rock. Then they'll take the molten metal, copper, bronze, whatever the case may be, and they will pour it in the rock mold. It won't bust the rock, it won't burn up, and it will make that part. Now, that's how a lot of the Roman spears and tips and swords were made. That's how they're made. They're not hammered out. They're poured. And you can see this all over the world. And so it starts out as orange molten lava, and then here it is, and they pop it out, and they shape it up and do whatever. Same way if you're mold making right now. Although some of those ancient things were for water flow, a lot of these that are being uncovered in the ancient cities, I'm telling you, are mechanical devices. Because when I look at them and I can see circles, right? I see dies, I see sprockets, I see articulating parts, or I see things on fixed angle, like if you were thinking about your tractor arms, that's a fixed angle made piece. That's what I see. One of my goals as a human, if I ever get back to exploration again, I want to go to the place with the most of these cuttings in the rocks that can't be explained. You know, some of them are like 2 inches wide. They're precisionally there, and it'll go like this. It'll make a right angle, but in the right angle is a hole, but it's got a divot in it where if you poured it, it would have a hole there, like for a bolt. Peruse these places. I want to go 3D scan all of these existing rocks out there. Once I get them in a 3D scan, I can look at the positive of the negative, right? Here, I'll show you a photo. Hang on. That's a good thing. I should show you what I'm talking about. Hold on. Give me one moment. Give me a moment. I'll find a good one that will. Now, I found some of these that are vitrified, and I'm going to show you some of the really interesting stuff out there in exploration. But hang on, I got to find a particular one. Bear with me, it's worth it. I'd have to go back to my old site. I'm going to show you a few of them. Hold on. Ah, damn it. Hold on. Give me 1 minute. I closed the wrong. I just want to find a specific one, and it's not. Damn, I'm having a hard time. Okay, here's one. And then I got to go back to that one. And then I got to go back to, where are you? Okay, I'm going to show you a few. I guess I'll just put it on my, well, let me screen capture it and give you it. So here's one. See how I talk to myself? Sorry, but it's just my fucking doodle noodle. Here, come on. Here's two. Now remember, I've been all over the world studying these things. But now 3D scanning can be done so much easier than before. And my last one's here. Okay, there you go. Let me do some photos. And I'm glad you asked that, right? And let me just load them up. Here we go. I'm getting them stand by and you'll be able to see them. I'll do them in no specific order. So there's ancient sites all around the world. Some of these sites have carvings in them and rocks. Now, an interesting thing about the rocks is I can do tests and I can confirm that the rocks have been vitrified. Same with the ground. I caused a massive archaeological stir showing that the copper for the ancient Near East came from the Americas. I caused such a stir exposing what it really was that the State Department, the university, and the museums took it all down and protected it. They scrubbed everything. They scrubbed everything out there when I exposed what it really was. But here's an example. And if you're a machinist, you recognize it. The insides of the rocks have been vitrified. What you're looking here at is a gear shaft extrusion mold. Same as you look here. These are connective parts and the way to pop them out. And they taught these great things. Here's an example of a school. This is where they taught young people to lay out cities. And they had to practice on rocks designing these layouts. But this is an extruded gear mold. Vitrification means it's been through heat. Why? Because they poured it down the throttle of it. This is what I exposed in the Uluburun shipwreck in Turkey, that the copper came from the Americas, all archaeological pushed out. They wrote all kinds of bullshit stories until I said, okay, let's take them. And you can see the little bumps, that's dirt, pop it. And you can pop the dirt and find out they did it in the Mississippis. Yes, I'm very familiar with Graham Hancock. Love his work. Anyway, how about this? These rocks are all machined to the same exact 100% tolerance. These things are 14,000 years old, minimum. This one, we even discovered how they did it. When you see the rocks a lot in the Perus and you see how they're put together and have, they fit, Pumapuco's a lot of it. Not only did we discover how they did it, we discovered exactly how they folded rocks to create locks. And that's what you're seeing there. And so to answer that very long final question, I would literally position myself Antarctica, right at the subcircle part, not at the top. And if I could be at the right elevation and then I could just watch, like in that movie, Time Traveler, I could just watch it evolve. I would want to see what we can't see today. Yeah. Did you know you can fold a rock like a marshmallow, insert it into a lock? I can't tell you 100% how they really did it. And here's why. You know, when you see these rocks fitting together like this, we made a major discovery of how the ancients did it. There's no gap between those rocks. We still can't build this way today. And so one of the things I need to do in my lifetime, I hope I get to do, is mount a expedition to go find what I need to find. Because now we have not only the technology to track it, so I know where it is, we have the tools that we can understand that engineering. But what if I told you it was as simple as a spray, and if we ever in the future wanted to cut a highway through a mountain, we would stand back, we'd just spray the wall of the mountain, solid rock granite, and the granite would instantly become soft for about a foot, and you dig it out to carve your hole. You set those little piles on the side, but those piles on the side will instantly go back to being hard in a few hours. We found what it was. We found how it was done. I think it would completely change the building industry. It will completely change how we did this, right? And yes, these are molds. And so one of the things, again, on my damn list, I want to mount the expedition. I want to go to all the places and I want to 3D scan these parts. I want to 3D scan these. And then I can now go back with artificial intelligence with those scans, with all these different parts, and say, what would this make? And it will figure it out, put them together, and we will be able to see the ancient machines that should never exist here. I'm sorry, Liberty Mom, I said mount, I said hard, but I want you to know, dear, that was a special subliminal message only for like-minded kindred spirits such as you and I. Mount hard. Mount. Hammer hard. Long time. I love you a long time. Anyway, folks, I appreciate you tuning in. We'll do more of these. I used to do them pretty regularly. Ask me anything. Do me a favor. Remember what's going on out there. And when you see those liberals, let them know what's up.
Rennie Good was a gifted soul, a writer and a poet and a mother. Wow, she tried to hit an agent with her car. Oh no, pop motherfucker, now she's gone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired fuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease. You fuck around and find out it's what it is. Jeffrey Pretty was a Jewish motherfucker, now you're gone. Yeah, yeah.
Don't leave! I forgot to show you something. I got to talking about all that stuff. Let me see if my mic's right. I forgot to show you something. And it's important. So wait. You know this, how the guys in NATO, and I should have played, I just got distracted, how the guys in NATO are not supporting Trump? I want to show you Obama first term to 2023, Europe. Obama term to 2023, Europe in the UK. Now, every little black dot, no pun intended, every little black dot represents 100 people. You got it? Every little black dot represents 100 people illegally invading the country. Get ready for this. That's the UK. Every little dot represents 100 people and where they came from, bringing them into the UK from Obama term through. And you're going to see that during that time, it was 12 million. And I'm going to play it for you one more time on loop. And the reason I'm going to tell you on loop, this is also exactly how many Biden let in our country. It is the same amount. It's flies on shit. You better believe it. It is the same amount of people came our way in Biden's era. Biden's era. This is also very close to the number of new people put on the voter rolls that are illegals in our country. This is a great way to visualize it. And what I'm showing you is this starts with Obama, and it's the illegal immigrants, and this is just into the European Union. And that has happened here too. That's the swarming plague. I will put that over on my Telegram for you. I am so sorry that I forgot it. Right? It's important. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate Dr. Frank and all your buddies each time giving me the 5 thumb down. I love you all.
Rennie Good was a gifted soul, a writer and a poet and a mother. Wow, she tried to hit an agent with her car. Oh no, pop motherfucker, now she's gone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-head unfuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease. You fuck around and find out it's what it is. Jeffrey Pretty was a Jewish homo. Started talking shit to protect
not fixing 2020, will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County Full Forensic Audit Archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now.